This is for everybody who has already met their karmic soulmate, twin flame, soulmate. And for those of you who are still thinking, who is he? Who is she? Where can I find them? So before I start, I'm going to just explain to you the spread that I have developed for this occasion. So here are the significators that I'm using for this particular reading. Remember, significators mean that this is going to be the same for every sign. The reason why I'm choosing them, it's sort of like the category that I really want to find the answers to, as if you're in a bookstore and you find a book with this title. So let me explain to you the significators that I'm choosing. The first one is Luna. Luna is going to tell me about the darkness and everything that maybe still didn't surface, maybe things that you don't know, maybe things that you should know. Then we have Solar Deity. Solar Deity is going to tell us what you should know. Maybe there is like still somewhere lingering, maybe it is too bright for you, maybe it's too close to your eyes, but you're going to realize that maybe you know that. Then we have Reason. Many of us are asking, why? That's the hardest question as a therapist and as a reader to really answer. Why? Because we people, we don't really make too much sense when it comes to love. So we're going to try to answer it within this card. Then we have the card guidance. Let's see, because it's your mirror soul, what do you need to find out about this person? If you guys still didn't read my introduction to this series, please check somewhere in this corner before you proceed, because it's going to tell you really how and what I see it. I see it as a mirror, and that's why this is called Mirror Healing Series. Then we are getting to the Tower, and the Tower is going to tell us about what needs to break. It is like always a time that certain things cannot grow anymore, and maybe they cannot grow because they're not sustainable. Maybe, we need to kind of change us. Maybe they need to change. Whatever it is, we're going to discover it in this category. And the Chariot, a lovely card with pushing it forward. Where do we go? Which turn do we take? And then let's check the significance of all of this. Two of Chalices. Is there a kiss that is going to happen? Or what at this point of time is karma telling us? So, guys, shall we start? Sagittarians, my dear friends, how are you? This is your twin flames for August and September. So let's kind of like see where we are guided. So this is for these of you who already feel that they have twin flame in their life, and this is also for those who are hoping to meet this person, even though this kind of puzzles me because twin flame relationships are usually difficult ones. But let's start. Bottom of the deck, this kind of like baseline energies you have. Let your friends help you. Ask for and accept support from others. And you also have express your love. Go ahead and make the romantic gesture. I absolutely see here there is a lure of the past. Somebody is in your dreams, Sagittarians. Somebody is possibly unattainable, but nevertheless admired and adored. And there's lots of this what might be. Maybe you're expecting somebody from the past kind of, contact you and say hello. You are definitely still feeling this huge, enormous connection. Very much this person could be somebody from a distant past, somebody kind of like back to the youth through this kind of like teenager love. Maybe somebody who seemed to be very proud or very unachievable, right? Because look at her, how she's sitting and accepting this affections over here from this really nice young man. I kind of like feel there is like some melancholy kind of like in the air when I see this card, but also really nice memories that you feel that usually this card shows up when you're not with a person. And sometimes the memories of the persons are painful. Sometimes there is this apprehension of not being with this person. In this case, there is like those nice memories, joyful memories, fantasies, infatuation. And this is definitely some kind of like secrecy that is over here. I also feel, Sagittarians, that you are getting very intense dreams where this person is making an appearance and you're really toying with kind of like opening communications, because look at this Eight of Wands basically just looming here underneath. Oh, and a Two of Cups. That is your twin flame, that is your soulmate, somebody who you basically keep holding dear. So let me see how this is really affecting your life. So here are the things that you kind of like are not fully aware of, or that maybe are simply pressing. It's interesting that you have occupation, and yet there is like this card of total disaster, total destruction. Sometimes somebody being caught in some kind of cause, in some kind of issues, right? It's everything has a time and place over here, guys. Maybe there were issues that, you see the Saturn, it's kind of like that heavy-handed ruler. Saturn also to me is something that kind of like rules this kind of like devil energy. So I think this kind of like has the appearance of the axis. I don't know, for some reason this kind of like looks to me like a wife or some kind of dedication, somebody who is very domesticated. But King of Cups is like that silent water, and it's in this deck Cancer, and it's kind of like really talking about something hidden on top of this kind of Luna. Maybe you haven't expressed everything that you needed to express. Maybe it was too late to express it. But this kind of like didn't stop you of wanting something. It almost looks like there was a set of circumstances that kind of like got in the way of things rolling forward. And it was definitely a tug of war over here that I see. And this could be as simple as tug of war between, hey, I have to put my head straight, I need to kind of like perform at work, and somebody really needed emotional support from you, or you needed emotional support and you felt you're losing the battle, and maybe you didn't get it, or maybe you feel you didn't get it. Maybe you did get it, but it just kind of like wasn't forthcoming. So the next one is solar deity. And solar deity is going to be the category which is going to tell me what is visible. And you have, whoa, and 5 and 6 of Pentacles and expectation. So there is like this day-to-day kind of building forward. 5 of Pentacles is definitely almost like has the same kind of like feeling of some kind of like doom and gloom and disaster, or it is kind of giving me a feel of a person who feels lost. Usually in the other decks it talks about being left out in the cold, but not in this deck. In this deck is more or less telling me about the people who maybe are not feeling that enthusiastic about their life. And that's why we have this expectation card. I really do not think that you guys have this kind of like sense of empowerment or anything like that, because after all, there is like the 6 of Pentacles. There is like this willingness to expand, willingness to go to the next step. So what is over there is some kind of dedication. And it is Pentacles. It is kind of like practicality. It is like, how do we make this work? There are already 2 6s. There is like already this soulmate that you are really, really feeling connected. Maybe somebody's waiting on you, but maybe you're waiting on somebody else. There is kind of like really interest over here in the situation, but there is like something from the past. It is like somebody you were not able to file away, because you guys, you have that big bow and arrow, and when you kind of like hit it, you're kind of like going for that kind of like center, and it is a weapon, right? So maybe you were going toward your goals, and somebody and that arrow ended up in the wrong place. Kind of like, let's see where this is kind of going. So then we have the reason card here, and we have Five of Swords interestingly, and Nine of Wands. And I really love this deck with kind of like, there are little kind of like triggers that kind of like show up. So bad health, I think you have been dealing with a situation that maybe was calling for somebody's different. Maybe somebody had, and that's what I started to feel over here. There were like lots of different things going in lots of different directions. Maybe there were too many things on the plate: relationship, job, and health. It sounds really overwhelming to me over here. And maybe because of that reasons, kind of like, maybe that was you really being depressed. Maybe it was kind of like some kind of essence of not knowing in which direction to go, right? Because look at him in this Five of Swords. Look at these beautiful, beautiful, basically roses. All of them are being basically pierced. All of them are being basically killed. So here we have this kind of like Leonardo's, what do you call it, this pentacle kind of man. The truth is here that he is not feeling that great. He is not feeling that human in this particular situation. He is actually undergoing some kind of almost like personal disaster over here that I see here. It's kind of like really linking to the kind of like bad health. Maybe there was kind of issues about, you know, this kind of like waste. Maybe you're feeling, I kind of like feel you're not with somebody, and something happened that kind of like really feels that you're like, because this pentagram is like really that pentagram of men, that you're feeling that connection so deeply, because these swords pinning those roses indicate that mental process have been used to kind of like enslave the passions. So there was a passion, and then there was a passion. So what basically would happen to kind of do that? As I said, it looks like there were other kind of like obstacles. Maybe perhaps at one time you thought that you would actually move forward in this kind of direction with this person, but maybe you have been too passive about that, or somebody has been too passive about that, because it just kind of like really, really talks about futility over here. And maybe there is the blame that kind of like went in two directions. Maybe it was a finger pointing at you. Maybe it was too little bit too late, you know, and accepting the unavoidable and kind of getting a clear perspective. It simply kind of tells me that there was a situation where for some reason it was kind of like really, really difficult to act. But then we are getting into this kind of like Nine of Wands, and again we have this hidden lion over here, and this deck has this rendition of this kind of strength and hidden strength like really, really clearly, because here, as you can see, it's almost like a dream, right? And there's like somebody very, very muscular here, right? There is like somebody who is like really energized, and there are like five wands which kind of like appear to be transparent, right? But four of them are in front. Very different rendition about that. The best part over here are the serpent, see the little cobra, and the lion, right? So snakes basically represent the energy of the body as kind of like acting on the mind, and it can actually talk about the wisdom, where lions indicate physical strength and kind of like power, right? So there is like somebody who is standing in between the lion and the serpent. So it is up to this person, it's up to you, Sagittarius, to gain access to basically your potency. So you need to lift yourself up. Maybe you have been in this wasteland for quite a while. Maybe there is like this anticipation and waiting for somebody.
maybe you feel the sacrifice has been there, but you know, there are like certain fantasies over here, and to some extent kind of like feeling slightly of kind of going in direction of giving up, because you had this 10 of wands over here, and here you have 9 of wands. So it is kind of like taking a step back, and this is always a good thing when you're confused, to kind of like see, okay, let's go to the point where it worked. Like, you know, like when you're typing a document and you go and you go and go, and then you start cleaning the stuff and doing the stuff, and then all of a sudden it's a mess. So you just go back and back and back and back until the version that kind of like worked. And it looks like the same thing here comes to kind of like for, this is also telling me that maybe there was a shadow of commitment over here, that you kind of like had certain vision about certain thing and certain strength, because there is like this feeling to me that you have been a thorn, just like here, in all directions. And because of that, there was kind of like only a shadow strength in the process. So let's see the guidance over here. Oh boy. Despair, Ace of Wands, and 10 of Pentacles reversed. Oh, guys, I think you feel at a loss. I really feel that, you see, we had this occupation and we have this despair, but he also has this like big sign that says not hiring. It's kind of like wonder, why have I done this? Why have I not been more forceful? Why haven't I engaged a little bit more? Because all of these kind of things, there seem to be some kind of sacrifices that have been made in the process. The Ace of Wands is kind of like definitely willingness into going in a new direction. This could be more than one person over here, because there is definitely lure of the past over here. 10 of Pentacles is describing a family. And it's kind of like really interesting that in this deck, instead of the family, we actually have one person, one man, who seems to kind of like really just about to take his heart and give this heart out. 10 of Pentacles is always talking about more than one person. It kind of like can talk about a whole bunch of longevity in kind of like things. We talk about here about an experience, right, that each of us has at least once in life. You know, maybe reaching a pinnacle of a complete success and recognition, achieving an honor, being recognized, because I can see that you're really fighting for maybe somebody, fighting for something, and yet you haven't been praised. You haven't receive those accolades, because this was kind of really reversed, because there is like this feeling of emptiness that really penetrates through this reading. You're really missing this person. You're really feeling incomplete. It's almost like that you didn't exist, and then you walk up, somebody turned the lights on, and then just like that, it was over. So maybe you now feel that you're just simply just functioning, like almost robotically, that like world is passing by while you're kind of like standing in the spot, right? And there is like a sense of apathy over here, and kind of like everything feels to kind of like be lost because of something here. Because the young man on the 10 of Pentacles could be somebody who is about to venture into the world, because look at that confidence. It's kind of like really feeling like the pride of the family, right? But now it's instead some kind of loss of something that is beginning at the loss. This also could mean that you have been waiting for somebody who did not come through. You really gave your heart. You even became very emotional, where you're usually project oriented, action oriented. But with this person, there were like some kind of expectations that you placed upon yourself, and it was sort of like about the situation. But it kind of like didn't work out. And instead, almost looks like there were also obligations that you had, whether the family or something else, Hi, Savi. You want to say hi to Sagis? Say hi to Sagis. Say hi to Sagis. And you don't feel that what makes you happy is supported with your family, clearly. And this is maybe why this is saying let your friends help you. There is like something that needs to be kind of like influx from a side, somebody who really has your best interest in place to kind of like push it forward. The Ace of Wands is also sometimes talking about the second chances, second beginnings, but not with somebody who you had family with. You have been hook, line, and sinker with someone. You are totally out of your element with this person. You are trapped without this person. It almost like felt like this person has the key of your life code, and yeah, sure, you can function without this person, but it kind of like really feels beyond incomplete. So let me see this Ace of Wands. Why is this Ace of Wands for Sagittarius over here? Ace of Wands. And again, I have this malady. I have this feeling of depression, of being overwhelmed, even though like, I mean, he's sitting in, lying down in bed. I really feel there is like somebody who just really doesn't want to move forward, somebody who really needs nurturing. And I think that's maybe what you got, because that's what this card shows. Look at this enormous sun, and enormous like center of your universe, just like here. It was like the person you wanted to share everything with, that kind of like literally opened the door wide open. And maybe certain things happen too fast. You have these kind of like wands going over here. But what is the interesting thing, that this is kind of like a shifting this cycle, and you're moving into this next cycle with this Ace of Wands. And there is the wedding reversed, same as Ten of Pentacles. Are you guys, some of you, getting married? Are you getting out of some kind of complex, are you getting divorced, pardon me, getting out of some kind of complex situation? Maybe somebody was married in this situation, and hence, you look, it's kind of like you haven't been, I think this is you, or somebody haven't been fully available, like the lover, kind of like certain things couldn't happen over here in this situation. And the reason for that was there was no support of the family. Maybe the person you met was of a different religion, of a different race, and you know, it was kind of like really hard to merge with your lifestyle. And maybe you really wanted to integrate that, but instead of integration, it was just like full-blown war and full-blown feeling of somebody being victimized or rejected. And hence I see this malady and despair. And maybe you think you did the right thing, but obviously the results were not there. So like, let's see if we get a hangman in the situation to see why is this all happening. So the unexpected, and we see the star, we see Nine of Swords, and we see mature man. Well, now this is becoming interesting, because the star is very much unlike this card. It almost like tells me that there is a light and a dark side to that person, and maybe this is like what you need to make a decision about, because that's maturity after all. It's understanding that, you know, like the yin yang symbol, everything good comes with something bad, right? You never just get all these beautiful things. And that's why we usually kind of like saying good and in bad, and good and the evil, that we kind of like making these vows, because it's fairly easy to get along when everything is like, I mean, sugar and honey. But when times and tides turn into kind of bad direction, then it's really, really hard. But the star is a very promising card. Look at that. The crown chakra is all activated. And this is like on that level, twin flames are activated. This also could be somebody in a sign of Aquarius that you're like really worshiping above everything else, right? But at the same time, that love is also connected with some kind of like sense of anguish, And this is, again, I don't know, is it a war or is it some kind of like attack that we are observing, right? So the swords flying through the air and they're striking. And look at how heavily this unarmed man. This Nine of Swords basically show a man who is, or perceives to him as being a victim of malice beyond his control. Maybe you're resenting this person of doing something to you, because whether this kind of like was a personal attack or kind of like attack to looks like some kind of like family, there is like a really difficult for you to tie the loose ends in this situation. So everyone, you know, from the most macho man to the most protective kind of like person, kind of like need to sometimes face the fact that there are stronger forces than themselves. And maybe there was something that, you know, got out of hand. I definitely see that there were too many coals in the fire over here. So protection is kind of like what was really needed, and protection is basically not found in ignorance or in some kind of like passivity, right? So you are interested in this person, but at the same time you are terrified of this person. You're kind of like having a war, but I think that war is waging within. You know, there is like guilt and anxiety, and we kept seeing that. You almost like guys are maybe hating on yourself. There could be the depression and worry, but there's like definitely some kind of like self-esteem that kind of like gets to be affected. But this is really calling for you to kind of reconcile those differences. Something is going to hit you, and I really think, because this is the baseline, and this baseline is this communication, I kind of like don't see so much communication with this person, because it looks like that something struck so bad that there were like everywhere some issues, and somebody here was unavailable and the other person really reacted with force that maybe was unexpected. There was maybe no maturity in the situation, and the situation is maybe asking for maturity to finally be established. And maybe certain things had to be evolved and kind of like peeling the layers of the onion until they can be workable. But this is definitely calling for you to activate, to express your love. So let's see where this is heading forward. Oh my. 5 of Wands and 10 of Cups, and now we have a mature woman. I don't know if you can see it. I'm actually getting goosebumps, because you had the 10 of Pentacles getting out of something, and the 9 of Swords feeling almost devastation. Maybe you're wondering if you got out of something and you really kind of like felt, maybe I shouldn't have. What have I done kind of things? You know, have you ever questioned yourself, thinking about something is a really great idea and making that move, and the next you're realizing, oh my god, this is really not working out the way I was kind of imagining, right? Because 10 of Cups definitely is, you know, kind of like a person who is mature, who is maybe a little plump, I guess. It was some kind of sexual connection, guys, that you did have, you didn't have. The boundaries were not there. It was something boundless. It was like something, because you have this Merkaba, something that was like out of this world. And it's like no wonder that you're missing this person, because this person and you integrated to the level unknown to anything that you ever had in the past. This person was everything to you, and yet this person harmed you like no other person before. So given that you have all these 10s, you have a 10, you have a 10, you have a 10, you have a 1, right? There are some issues kind of like happening. We're going to get to this 5 of Wands. 5 of Wands is really more or less talking about defining your space, right? Because it is a space within the space. As you can see, there is the fence and there are the mountains. So they're really not working together in overcoming obstacle. They're rather almost like yin and yang. Look at the red top and the red bottom, right? And they're kind of like working in avoiding each other arrows. And guess which sign has an arrow? You guys do. And just like you are having this whole trepidation about, oh my gosh, I'm not going there, this has been very, very painful, this person is kind of like possibly feeling that it's not a workable situation given that the boundaries, or maybe the person established this line in the sand, or you did, whichever way, because this can be mature woman and mature men don't really think about it, because this is very puzzling card for me. Just like what we had in the Ten of Pentacles that we had in one fellow, here we have just like this beautiful kind of like voluptuous woman, or some people call it plump, I call it voluptuous because I'm just kind of like me. And but at the same time, she kind of like seems to kind of like more to belong in a boudoir, right? And there is like this kind of like really interesting way of how she looks at this over kind of like filling kind of like these kind of like cups. She doesn't really have a very flattering visage, and she kind of looks like, you know, sad, if nothing else, because Ten of Cups is all about, you know, joy and enjoyment, right? But she also has this head cover that, you know, I think it's protecting her from the outside forces. I really feel that I think what you're really missing is that somebody was really, truly honest with you in spite of everything. Or you have been honest with somebody and that fallen flat kind of thing, right? Maybe you're feeling approaching this person, it will feel you will be rejected. Maybe you feel it's kind of like going to be just a passing ship in the night, because she's kind of having some passivity about that. You know, Ten of Cups usually indicate a mellow time and problems are kind of like vanquished, and or at least out of sight, and sort of like chance to kind of like really enjoy family, etc., etc., right? So it's kind of relaxing, but in this particular case it kind of like means some kind of completion. It means emotional fulfillment or resolution. So I really don't think that, I think this person is saying, I had all of that and I will never have it again. Kind of like it almost like feels to me that there is like this very strange deep connection, that both of you feel like kind of like completely lonely island without each other, that there is like no sense of home. And the home was in the Ten of Pentacles, so somebody wrecked their home to be together, and yet it did not happen. So it is kind of like talking about some kind of sense of honor or a sense of self-esteem. But I really think what is really important here to understand that sometimes walking away from a situation indicates maturity itself, and sometimes time heals. In your case, it didn't minimize the connection. The connection, that love is still there, but what really also is still there is that inability to connect and reconnect and restart, which was predicated on some other things that need to happen. So let's see what is here in your Two of Cups. Oh boy. Somebody is making that move. We have this Prince of Pentacles. This is again about friendship. An Ace of Swords about the truth being told. And now we have the main male. Somebody is putting on big boy's pants. Somebody is coming through. The Ace of Swords is I don't know if you can sing. It's kind of like that victory. It's kind of like that union. It's kind of the thing that is going forward. Something that can be built, but it has to be built on friendship. And it has to exclusively kind of like go slower and go in stages. It looks to me that it will be a man if there is a couple between a man and a woman, or somebody who is identifying as a man in the situation, that is probably going to make this cut and going to make this contact, because swords are words, swords are contact, so something is coming. It's really, really telling, because we had this Nine of Swords, and now this is moving into the next stage. So this mature man, he was thinking, these are cons and these are pros. So what do I do, con or pro? Like, kind of like, hey, I have this really nice memories of him or her, but I don't really want to kind of have all this hell that I had in my life. And kind of like the same thing was here. It's kind of like, I have been fulfilled, and what else is there for me in my life? So let me see, why is that Ace of Swords there for Sagittarians? Thief. Some truth has to be kind of like be told. The thief is generally talking about deception and betrayal. I'm not sure really how this really relates to the others, because falseness. You see, something really had to be spoken. There is like this essence of somebody really taking things as devastation. That's probably why there were lots of kind of like bad blood in this situation, because thief, falseness, service. It's kind of like a feeling of, hey, is this kind of like ever going to work? Is ever the door going to open up for me in the kind of direction where I will be able to be helpful? But it looks like there is going to be a sense of, you know what, I want to open that door. I want to kind of go to this next step, because again, I see this fear. Again, I see this hesitation of going in this direction, because probably of the past. So what is karma telling us? Oh boy, official person, the Tower, and Princess of Wands. So karma is saying that things really need to be rebuilt. Something has to be out in the open, official. Maybe this was the problem. Maybe something was hidden, secretive, sacrifices have been made, and nobody was aware of the sacrifices, and nobody was aware that there is like this kind of like joint goal, because there is definitely a good possibility of you guys kind of like really, I mean, this is an immense amount of love over here, but also immense amount of animosity. And love and hate are not opposite, and that's for sure, and this reading proves that. Because, you know, arguments could have been kind of like the name of the day, because something from the outside striking the structure, it's really saying that, you know, the structure hasn't been built in the first place. And this kind of like is saying that you really shouldn't look in who did what. It looks like there is like situation that is calling for leaving things in the past and leaving this kind of like overly passionate exchanges, not to kind of call them distractions and arguments and blow-ups, in the past. Certain things need really rebuilding over here. The Tower is that essence of, hey, you know what, it happened right now, possibly happened for a reason, because it's obviously linking over here for this kind of like huge black and white kind of like you know, expectation that, but at the same time, you know everything. And the truth is that you guys want to go in this direction. Truth is that there is like this enormous connection, and there would not be this kind of like explosion if this kind of like wasn't twin flame. This is clearly what twin flames are all about. It's about explosion, it's about healing, it's about letting it out, and it's about kind of like really being like this naked and kind of like understanding the other person. So this is what's going to be really kind of interesting month. And it kind of like also looks like that you have all these issues that you really need to take care of. Like there are like those disturbances and kind of like all this kind of like things that need to be taken in account. So let me take another card for you, and we can see what other messages I have for you, Saggies. And yeah, I would love to hear your comments. And if you haven't subscribed, you see this button here, just click on it and you'll be invited for my lives. So let me see what messages do I have for Sagittarians and their twin flame. I'm getting too many cards over here. We had a leg up, flexible, and chop wood, and I kind of like really didn't feel like picking up any of them. So let's get just one card for Sagittarians. Serendipity. Serendipity. Make a wish. You know, guys, the more I look into that, it looks like you're actually willing to give something up, or give someone up. Give someone up because of the bad things that happen. But you cannot explain why. There are so many reoccurrences of things that are pointing out that certain things need to be resolved. So let's see what's the message over here. Spirit has a plan. I wanted to read this general message, but I was just like stuck on this relationship message, so I'm going to read you this. Spirit has a plan, and that plan is to place you in front of the right person at the right time. You actually have met someone vitally important to your journey, someone Spirit wants to bring into your life. Only divine forces can plan this meeting because it is out of your hands. However, pay the attention to the signs that Spirit presents. And I'm going to read you this general message. Perhaps you felt almost certain then serendipitous events were meant to lead to something better. It was supposed to be the perfect person, the perfect business. You gave your heart, and that was supposed to be the one, yet it all fell apart. Consider this. Sometimes synchronicity and serendipity come together to lead you directly into difficulties in order to deliver an important lesson you need to learn before you hit the jackpot. Don't get caught up in the drama of disappointment. There really is a silver lining in this cloud. Spirit always knows what you need, and it's guiding you to where you're meant to go. Pay attention to the signs presented to you. So guys, you're being kind of guided, and that's kind of how I feel. You're kind of like reaching this higher level of clarity. There was the separation that was really needed in order for this maturity to reach place, because only now you can actually start creating something. So don't kind of like go back to finish the cycle. Just go into something else, and that something else can be done if things are being rebuilt and discussed and the old grievances put on the side. It is time to understand the value of this person's input in your life, and to also really be clear and express your love and your devotion. So thank you, Sagittarius, for your time. And if you want a reading with me, please check me through my website, cattarot.ca. Until the next time, I love you guys. Testing.